Okay, previously we looked at working with some real audio tracks. Today we're going to look at using some effects with those tracks and how you can apply them and tweak them to your heart's content. Hopefully this is going to work out with the audio coming through from Garageband into the screencast. If you look over here on the left, we have a bright acoustic guitar track here that I just recorded a little ditty playing on the guitar there, and we've got a drum track going here. Let's see if we can hear that. Very simple. So this acoustic guitar track is selected. It's highlighted in blue. If we go over to the right, we see here that this corresponds to that track. We've got a bright acoustic guitar. Beneath here, beneath this little browse tab, as we saw, there are different families of effects that you can use here. Right now we're in acoustic guitars. There's also bass and drums and vocals, etc. So acoustic guitars, and we're using the bright, the bright acoustic guitar track, which basically is a preset of a chain of effects. And if we want to take a look at those effects, what we do is we'll click on this edit button, or the edit tab, excuse me, and we see the effects that comprise the bright guitar sound. Now what we have here is a noise gate, a compressor, a track reverb. Look here and see that the noise gate is not active. It's actually gray there. We can make it active by clicking the blue, turn it off. We can do the same thing with the compressor, turn it on or off. Beneath these tracks, there's some empty spaces, like empty rack spaces here, that you can click and add other effects if you'd like to add to those. Down at the bottom here is a visual EQ, which you can adjust. And finally, at the very bottom, there's a master echo and a master reverb. So for instance, if I start playing this guitar track, you know what, I'm going to mute the drums so you can just hear the guitar. If I pull this echo up, it gets kind of messy, but also the reverb. So you can hear that being adjusted just like that. But let's go back up here and let's look at this. So we've got the track reverb. If you notice, the name is here and it's a drop-down window, menu actually. So if we click on that, we can change this effect. Let's say we don't want it to be a track reverb, we want it to be a flanger. We click on flanger, and now when we listen to the guitar, there's a slight flange there. By default, it's set to the default flanger setting, but we can click on this and there are other flanger settings we can use here. There's fascination, intergalactic police. Let's see what that sounds like. Yeah, kind of crazy, right? Let's put it back to manual, and you know what? Let's put this back on track reverb. But let me show you this. These effects right here are the ones that are included with Garageband. Now beneath that, there are some additional ones that you can install, or actually they show the ones that you may have installed on your computer in addition to the ones that come with Garageband. So if you get extra effects that you download or purchase, you can install them and they'll end up right here in this section. But let's go back to track reverb. And again, we can set to different kinds of reverbs here, lots of different types. We can also click here on the icon for the reverb, track reverb, and we see that it's set at the default. We can change it to any of the same ones that were listed over to the right, or we can actually come in and adjust it ourselves. For instance, I'll start playing the guitar and we'll lengthen the reverb time here and maybe put the reverb volume up a little bit. So you see you can adjust the things right there any way that you want. You can also add an additional effect here in one of these blank areas. So if I click on this, it says, what do you want to add? Let's add this amp simulation right here, and click here and see what we've got. Let's big wheels. Let's see what that sounds like. I'm going to turn this down. This might get kind of loud. And again, we can click this and go in here, adjust different parameters of the effect any way that we want. But let's get rid of that. We'll just take that back to none. The EQ is great because you can click on the EQ here and you've got details for your different ranges of EQ. But if you turn on the analyzer, actually let's leave the analyzer off, you can adjust the EQ like this or whatever, but you can also turn on the analyzer to see where the frequencies are that you might need to tame, so you can drag this over like this, up or down, whatever you might want to do. So yeah, that's kind of a introduction to effects. You can also see if we click back to browse, and now we've made some changes to this effect. So if I'm on the bright and I go to change it to large reverb, GarageBand pops up this little warning menu that says you've made changes to the current instrument or instrument setting. We can save it and save that as our own custom preset so that we can always come back to it. But if you were just playing around, you didn't find the sound that you were looking for, I usually would just click continue in that case and continue to experiment with other sounds that you might find here. Okay? Well, that's it for this time. Stay tuned. We'll have some more things coming your way before you know it.